Hey everyone, how's it going? Happy 4th of July weekend. Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate ringsidenews.com. I hope your 4th of July weekend is fun yet safe. Glad you're tuning in to check out the latest regarding WWE and the world of wrestling. Let's get to your questions now from twitter.com with the hashtag PAIV. Please answer in video. First one today comes from Nathan. What are your thoughts on Samoa Joe debuting after the Rumble and confronting Lesnar, setting up a WrestleMania 33 match for his debut? I like the idea of Samoa Joe facing Brock Lesnar. I think Joe would be a good opponent for Lesnar. I think that would be a very entertaining physical match. Now, with that being said, I think that the Rumble is too late to debut Joe if he was going to face Lesnar at WrestleMania next year. I think if Joe was going to face Lesnar, he should be built up like a monster on the main roster. Joe should debut on the roster as soon as possible and run through everybody. Just go on a rampage and be the most dominant force we've seen in WWE in many years. And at that point, you build up Joe for WrestleMania 33 to face Brock Lesnar, and Joe has a ton of credibility going up against the Beast Incarnate. We all love Joe. All of us internet fans that have been following Joe since TNA, we love the guy and we feel he's the real deal. But Joe needs to be established with the casual fans before you can really get the most out of a potential Joe versus Lesnar match at next year's WrestleMania. Next question here comes from Sohail. With WWE teasing a potential 5-way, could we see a 6-man Elimination Chamber match at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship? That's an interesting idea that I haven't really seen a lot of people mention. There is no immediate plan for an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. There's nothing on the calendar for the rest of 2016. Now, in my opinion, I think WWE should just drop that pay-per-view concept and do Elimination Chamber when there's a good storyline reason to do it. Now, maybe because of the brand split or maybe because of Roman Reigns' suspension, perhaps that is something that WWE might consider, doing an Elimination Chamber match at SummerSlam. It's hard to say though, because with the brand extension, it's really a big question mark what the future direction of the company is. Maybe WWE will wait on it until next year, bring back the Elimination Chamber in 2017. That could also be a possibility. So I think that at this point, it's really too soon to tell if WWE will be doing an Elimination Chamber match for SummerSlam. Is it a good idea? I'm not really sure, because I think there are a lot of interesting matchups WWE can do for SummerSlam this year. And when you're trying to establish the brand extension, if you're throwing 6 guys in an Elimination Chamber match, I'm not really sure how you would do that exactly when you have guys on Raw and guys on SmackDown. You really do not want to put a bunch of random people in an Elimination Chamber match. You want to put the top tier guys in. And I think you need to build up some new talent. Once the brand extension takes place, I think you need to build up some talent first before you do an Elimination Chamber match. Because if you do like a Raw exclusive, you have to have 6 top tier stars to do that. Or if it's a SmackDown match, you need 6 top tier SmackDown guys. And will 5 weeks be enough time from Battleground to SummerSlam, or 4 weeks, whatever it is? Will that be enough time to establish top guys, 6 top guys for that Elimination Chamber match? And I'm not really sure. I think it might be better to wait on that. Got this one here from @Vince Fears No DQ. I love that username. Should WWE have an Elimination Chamber match to determine a World Heavyweight Champion at SummerSlam? So this is similar to the previous question about the Elimination Chamber. That would be another interesting way you could do that, by having the new champion crowned at SummerSlam. You have 6 top guys that you build up. you don't have that much time. You only got about a month, but you build up the guys and you say the winner of that match becomes the first world champion. So if you were going to do an Elimination Chamber match at SummerSlam, that might be the best way to do it. Have that match be for the World Heavyweight Championship to crown the first SmackDown champion or the first Raw champion if Ambrose is drafted to SmackDown. That would be a very logical way to do it if WWE was going to do an Elimination Chamber match at SummerSlam. I can't even say it. Got this one here from Simon Lee. Hey Aaron, will next year's Money in the Bank be an exclusive pay-per-view for Raw or SmackDown, or with the brand split? From what I understand at this point, it is going to be a single brand pay-per-view. Right now, the plan in WWE is for the traditional Big Four to remain the Big Four that include both Raw and SmackDown on the pay-per-view. That could always change, though. I think because Money in the Bank is so close with SummerSlam, it really doesn't make much sense to have back-to-back Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views unless WWE decides to move Money in the Bank to earlier in the year, move it to a different month, or move it to November, although you have Survivor Series, which has been in that November slot for the longest time since it began. I'm not sure, because I do feel that lately Money in the Bank has been a bigger deal than Survivor Series, but the way WWE has it right now, you have Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series all spread out from each other, and it's just a good format that WWE has. So unless you're going to just get rid of Survivor Series or do a major change where you move Survivor Series, but if you move Survivor Series, then it's basically acknowledging that it's not a big pay-per-view anymore, and if that's the case, you might as well just get rid of it. So yeah, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I'm thinking that for the time being, Money in the Bank will most likely just be a single branded pay-per-view. This one comes from Gingy. Explain to me what WWE is doing with Enzo and Cass. Crushing jobbers feuding with the Social Rejects? How would you book them? They're in a little bit of an interesting spot right now, I think, because of the fact that New Day are faces and they're the tag team champions, and WWE is keeping the two top babyface teams apart from each other. I think that eventually you can have Enzo and Cass challenge for the tag team titles, but the idea might be to have New Day lose to a heel team and then have Enzo and Cass go for the tag team titles. I would be shocked if Enzo and Cass get split up for the brand extension. I mean, that would just be a terrible idea. And same thing with the New Day right now. So I think what they're doing right now is the best way to do it, and maybe keep them on separate brands for a while. Have Enzo and Cass on SmackDown and keep New Day on Raw, or vice versa, switch it up. I think that eventually maybe you could build up a face versus face match, but it might be better to have New Day drop the titles to a heel team and then have Enzo and Cass go on the chase for the tag team titles. What WWE is doing right now, just let Enzo and Cass continue to build themselves up and build up some momentum. I'm fine with them beating the Social Outcasts or just running through some of the lesser tag teams in WWE right now. Got this one here from Levy. With Roman not being over at all right now, it doesn't look like WWE is going with Cena versus him at SummerSlam. Should it be at WrestleMania 33? I think because of the brand split, it's unlikely we see John Cena versus Roman Reigns. Now, for next year's WrestleMania, if Roman does not get suspended again, then that certainly could be a possibility for next year's WrestleMania, even as far as doing a Raw versus SmackDown match for bragging rights. You can do John Cena versus Roman Reigns, one brand versus the other brand, in a big match at WrestleMania. That's something WWE could do. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think it's inevitable that we'll see Roman Reigns versus John Cena, but I was talking about this match as a SummerSlam possibility before WWE announced the brand split. Once they announced that, I figured, okay, Cena and Reigns are going to be kept separate, and eventually you can do a match between the two of them. WrestleMania 33, if all the cards fall into place, if the stars align, that should be a very suitable main event for WrestleMania 33. Definitely a match that would get a lot of attention from people. Whether it's good or bad, that would remain to be seen. This one comes from Angelo C. If CM Punk's pipe bomb happened in the Attitude Era, do you think it would have been as impactful? Probably not. The thing that made CM Punk's pipe bomb so spectacular was the fact that WWE was not really breaking the fourth wall during that period. It had been several years since WWE really did an angle that was that inside, that really broke the fourth wall and had all the insider references and really felt like the script was being broken, even though it wasn't. It was all a work, but it was the worked shoot. WWE had not done something like that in a long time, and that's why it was so memorable. That and Punk's delivery, of course, but if Punk had done that in 1999, wouldn't have been as big of a deal because we were seeing shoot promos all the time, and that was the problem with Russo's Crash TV and WCW. By the time Russo got to WCW, the shoot promos had been done so many times that it wasn't new anymore. It wasn't exciting or interesting. We had seen it before. When Russo went out there at Bash at the Beach, I mean, even though, that led to Hogan leaving the company for real, people just didn't buy into it, and it was really just going too far. With Punk, I mean, it wasn't as extreme as like one of Russo's promos. It still made a huge difference, though, not just with the hardcore fans, but casual fans as well, wondering what the hell is going on here. And it was just inside enough that the casual fans could understand it without being too confused. So yeah, if it was in the Attitude Era, I think that it wouldn't have been as effective because of the fact that those worked shoot promos with ECW and WCW, WWE, it was just being done so often. This next one comes from Dominique Johnson. By the way the club is being booked, do you see Balor joining the club, or would he just be put on the opposite brand as them? I'm not sure if you're aware of this already, but WWE recently let the Balor Club trademark expire, which leads one to believe that WWE is not going to go with that as a potential group. And I've said this before, my prediction is that Balor will come in, or Balor, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, I think you're supposed to pronounce it Balor, but I think what will happen with him is he comes in as a babyface and helps out John Cena and goes against the club. To me, that really makes more sense because AJ Styles is the leader of the club, and if Balor was a heel with the group, how would that work exactly with two heels fighting for the number one position? AJ Styles is doing really good as the leader of the group, and if Balor came in, would he be secondary or would he be a co-captain with AJ? I guess with good writing you could come up with an intriguing storyline for that, but we all know WWE isn't really capable of something like that. So I think it's best to just have Finn Balor come into WWE as a babyface and help John Cena, because Cena could use some help. I mean, that is really the most effective way to bring in Finn Balor, is have him team up with John Cena and get the rub off of Cena. At least in my opinion, I think that's the best way to go. This one comes from Sean T. Flick. Reigns' positive test reportedly is due to ADHD meds. If that's the case and he has the disorder, then why the suspension? Alright, first off, that is purely speculation. I'm not even sure where that came from. I've seen it floating around the internet. I would not read too much into that. At this point, we're probably not going to know for sure what happened exactly unless Roman Reigns publicly admits it, which I do not see happening. I do not see Roman Reigns going on Twitter like Adam Rose and trying to explain his actions. I mean, he already admitted it, that he's owning it and he made a mistake and he's going to be better from this. But regardless of what it was, WWE had to do something. If it was for ADHD, let's just say for argument's sake it was, WWE cannot afford that negative publicity. If Roman Reigns was on something he wasn't supposed to be on, the company has to take action. Regardless of his position in the company, they had to suspend him. And they're losing money because of it. So for people out there to suggest that it's a work, I already answered that question. But WWE's losing money from Roman Reigns being off of television and not being at the live events. Yeah, he's still selling merchandise, but there's that saying, out of sight, out of mind, and no doubt those numbers do go down a bit when you're not on television. So regardless of the case, if he was taking something he's not supposed to be taking, and clearly he was, because the company would not suspend him unless he was clearly violating their policy. This one comes from Richard Henderson. Who do you think was one of the most underrated WWE and/or World Heavyweight Champions? For me, I would have to say The Miz. I tend to agree with you on that. I think The Miz was perhaps not booked strongly as champion. I mean, if you're going to go with the guy, and certainly The Miz had a ton of momentum in 2010. I mean, I look back at like SummerSlam that year in 2010, and he had the crowd in the palm of his hand at Staples Center, and he was just doing some fantastic promo work. And if the company was going to go with him, they should have just gone all the way. Instead, what they did was they put the title on him, and he was a secondary act. He was essentially a bit player in the John Cena versus Rock feud that led up to WrestleMania 27, and that really did a lot of damage to The Miz. And then, of course, losing that match at Over the Limit when he had Riley with him, and the two of them were beating up John Cena the entire match, and then John Cena just makes his comeback at the end and wins right away. And then later that year with the Survivor Series match with R-Truth and Miz against Cena and The Rock, yeah, that did a lot of damage to The Miz. So, I'm going to agree with you on that one about The Miz perhaps being the most underrated champion, and just look where he's at now. He has rebounded a bit ever since he won the IC title and Maurice got paired up with him on television. He's rebounded a bit, but still, this is a guy that beat John Cena in the main event at WrestleMania, and for several years he was just doing Miz TV and really doing nothing. So yeah, they definitely could have done a better job with him as champion. This one comes from Sir Tony Styles. Hey Aaron, say Batista never got injured in 2006. How long would he have been champion, and who would he have lost the title to? That is a very difficult question to answer. I'm not really a big fan of the what if questions. I think that if Eddie Guerrero had lived, I think Eddie would have won the title from Batista, possibly before Batista got hurt, maybe Survivor Series. Now, if Batista had not gotten hurt after Eddie passed away, then maybe Kurt Angle, maybe Rey Mysterio, maybe Randy Orton. I think one of those three guys would have been the most likely candidate to beat Batista for the title. Maybe Batista would have held it for a longer period of time and lost to somebody else. Who knows? But of the immediate guys that were in contention, it would have had to have been either Mysterio, Orton, or Kurt Angle. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding WWE Battleground and the brand extension, and of course the UFC 200 fight that's coming up next weekend with Brock Lesnar against Mark Hunt. Myself and Mike Nagel will be doing a video, hopefully, to give our predictions and discuss some other topics. Stay tuned for that on the YouTube channel, and I will see you guys next time.